Before we get started, we'd like to give a big welcome again to all those college students who are listening and watching Queer Money from their college, university, career websites.
So, what state produces 99% of all the commercial hazelnuts in the world, is the birthplace of the tater tot, and had its name chosen by a coin toss?
You're listening to Queer Money episode 409, and today we're sharing the most affordable LGBTQ plus friendly city in Oregon. Now on with the show. So, which city was decided by a coin toss?
Portland. It
Oh.
would have otherwise been named Boston.
Oh, gotcha. Oh,
sorry.
Now on with the show. The mission of Queer Money is to financially empower the LGBTQ plus community. Join us in thanking Capital One for supporting that mission. Oregon. If you like red wine, this is a state to go visit.
I do. I will.
All right. So one of the interesting things with Oregon, similar to Washington and several other states that we've talked about, it has a high concentration of population in very small areas. So a lot of the population in the state is concentrated near and around Portland, which means that there's a lot of other medium and small size cities. And when we started looking at our list, that's exactly what we were finding, is that we saw cities like Bend that has a population of 100,000, or Corvallis that has a population of 60,000. So we're going to be talking about some cities that don't have huge populations, which means you're not going to find the plethora of LGBTQ experiences that you would, say, for example, in a city like San Francisco, New York, Denver, or Chicago.
Right. But as we've been learning, as we've been doing this study, and people are reaching out, talking to us about the findings from this analysis that we're doing, quite honestly, there are a lot of LGBTQ plus people who don't want to live in these gigantic cities. They want a quieter life. And that's definitely something that some of these cities that we're reviewing in Oregon will provide people. So contrary to popular belief, not everybody actually wants to live in LA, Chicago, New York City. Some people do actually want a quieter, different kind of life. There's the winner for this week is great for outdoorsy activities. And so if you're an outdoorsy LGBTQ plus person, the winner this week might be the place for you to consider. So not everybody actually wants the oons, right? But that said, about the size of most of the cities in Oregon, everything else in Oregon is extra, like everything.
Like you.
It's similar. It's not a cheap state to live in. So
like you.
So if you're looking for, if you're looking to save money in your move, maybe Oregon's not the place for you to go unless you're able to find a great paying job that can cover your more than cover your cost of living. But as we'll discuss here shortly, the cost of living is quite high. And other than the runner-up and the winner this week, unfortunately, a lot of the cities that are ranked in Oregon for the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index aren't getting great ratings. So it's a liberal state, it's a liberal state allegedly, but it's not necessarily ranking that way on some of these reports that we're finding. Oregon did ban conversion therapy in 2015, so that's great. And we have heard that places like Bend and Corvallis that David talked about earlier are very LGBTQ plus friendly from people that we know who live there, family and friends, but they didn't make our list. So I think what we're finding out also with the study is that while we're looking at the numbers and the reports, and we're coupling that together to provide you an analysis, it still behooves you to do your own research and maybe actually go visit some of these places before moving there, or talking to people who actually live there. The experience might be a little bit different than what the numbers show, as we'll explain in a couple weeks when we talk about Ohio. That's what we're experiencing here. So as David has asked before, if for those of you who are from these areas that we're talking about, please share your thoughts and comments on the YouTube videos that we're doing, or on social media as we're discussing this more publicly. We'd love to hear your thoughts of actually people who are experiencing life in these locations, to provide some color to the numbers that we're providing.
Yeah. So who's our runner-up, John?
Our runner-up is Portland, all that said and done. Portland is one of 2 cities to get a 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index. Median average incomes come in at number 3 for all the cities that we reviewed in Oregon, $63,000 and $84,000 respectively. Rents come in at number 3 at $1,866, which is just below the national average. So there's a little bit of affordability there, but it's more than eaten up by the high cost of living in Portland, which is 154.6%. Wow. And
right.
That's the highest I think we've reported so far in our analysis. Is that right?
I think it's one of the highest. We may have come across another high one in Washington, but it's not. I don't think it's the highest. I think this might be the highest that we've actually shared as a runner-up or winner. But what that basically means, folks, is if you're living in a city or a state where the cost of living is at the national average or below, it's going to be 155% more expensive to live in Portland, which for a lot of people, that is going to seem astronomical. Tired of all the credit card offers you get from your current credit scoring app? Download CreditWise by Capital One today to avoid them. Yeah. Now, if you're living in places like San Francisco, LA, New York, you might be looking at this as a bargain.
Yeah, it's a discount to some people and eats up your whole wallet for other people. And then home values are toward the bottom for folks who live in Portland at averaging $525,000 per property. So there is a little bit of affordability there in terms of housing, but everything else is expensive. So definitely crunch the numbers and do your spending analysis. Check out Portland before you actually decide to move there, because it's not necessarily ranking high in terms of affordability.
One thing I will say about Portland, when I visited it felt to me like the biggest little city in the world. Being downtown in Portland, it did feel like being in a big city. And that I think it was kind of endearing about it, that it had that concentration of population and amenities that made it feel like a big city, which can be pretty nice sometimes.
Absolutely. So, David, who is the winner?
Our winner is Eugene, a city that neither of us have been to. No. But similar to Portland, it was the other city that did get a 100 on the HRC MEI index. And that is really kind of what pushed these 2 cities to the top, because we do overweight that ranking on the index. So that pushed this up. Now, rents, they came in just below Portland at 1,837. So they were second from the top. Home values, similar. They came in second to the top, just behind Portland. But what's interesting is considerably cheaper, $100,000 cheaper at $430,000. So home prices there are probably much more affordable for the average individual than they are in Portland. The cost of living, though, is considerably less at 135.8%. Now that may still feel
high relative to a lot of places in the country.
Exactly. But that is considerably cheaper. And then what I thought was interesting here is the median and average incomes are quite a bit lower than Portland. They came in at $50,000 and $68,000 respectively. So your dollar may go further. You just may not have as many of them.
Yeah. So if you're going to move to Eugene, maybe that's a place where you kind of take advantage of geo arbitrage. If you are coming from a place like New York or Chicago or San Francisco, maybe you can, and you are looking to move and are looking for that smaller sort of town vibe, then maybe Eugene is something to think about, but you keep your job in that more expensive city and you remote into work. With Oregon, there's just a lot of disparities in their cities, right? So you'll find, it seems anyway, that you'll find low incomes, but a high cost of living, or the inverse of high cost of living with low incomes. It doesn't seem to be anything that's sort of like a panacea for Oregon, unfortunately. Some great things about Eugene, though, we need to celebrate, is that it's on the Willamette River, between the Skinner Butte, the Spencer Butte, and the Coburg Hills. So it's a very picturesque, beautiful place to be. It's great for outdoorsy people from everything that we've seen and heard and read. It's great for hiking and cycling through the gorgeous woods and kayaking and whatnot, playing on the river and the lakes. It's listed as one of the best cities in the country for being bicycle friendly. So if you like to bicycle everywhere, but like David and I enjoy that, but it also scares me sometimes because not every city is bicycle friendly. Eugene apparently sets the bar. So if that's important to you, definitely check it out. It prohibited discriminations on the basis of sexual orientation for housing and for sexual orientation in housing, employment, and public access in 1977. That is crazy. And then it expanded that to state level employment in 1987. So definitely ahead of the curve in some areas in terms of LGBTQ plus rights.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why Advocate back in 2016 listed it as the 12th queerest city in America. So we're not the only ones saying this. Advocate also did their research 7 years ago and are listing it as a very queer-friendly city. And that may be in part because it is the home of the University of Oregon. It is listed as the University of Oregon is listed as the top LGBTQ campus by two organizations, bestcolleges.com and Campus Pride. If you're a college student, join Campus Pride. It's a great way to network and connect with other queer folks. And of course, being a very queer-friendly city, it does have its own pride, and that pride is in August.
So congratulations, Portland, and especially Eugene. Start your journey to financial independence with a checking and savings account that doesn't nickel and dime you with fees. Get a Capital One 360 checking or 360 performance savings account at Capital One today.
Thanks again for joining us for another Queer Money bonus episode that we do on Thursdays covering the LGBTQ plus friendly cities across all 50 states. Next week, we're going to be tackling Oklahoma. And guess what? It might surprise you that there is a city that got a 100 on the HRC Equality Index.
Yeah, it surprised me for sure. If you'd like to see the results of all of the cities that we're analyzing throughout this series, please go to queermoneypodcast.com/cities or click the link in your podcast player to get our growing analysis. Thank you and have a great weekend.